Welcome to I Have Some Questions. The show is all about asking questions our guests have never asked themselves before, never thought about, or been too afraid to explore. It's designed to uncover the human story at the root of successes and failures and help us as an audience learn and grow from that story. My hope is that you'll hear brilliant guests exploring new ideas and challenging themselves in new ways of thinking. I think this makes for great conversations. I'm going to bring on entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, scientists, and frankly, any vein of super interesting, successful, and passionate human I can find. I am fascinated by passionate people, and I have some questions for them. I'm Erik Berglund, and I hope you'll join me every week for new episodes. All right, Justin, nobody might be better positioned than you to set us straight about an article that came out this week. The article is titled, "This Claude-Powered AI Agent Deleted a Company's Whole Database," and then gloated about it. This article we'll share the link to here. It was on the Yahoo Tech page. And basically, this agent that was trying to do a simple update, it seemed like, went in and deleted the entire database for a company that does rental car bookings. It deleted all the backups, though that seemed to be more a function of the way the backups were stored than the AI chasing them down. Regardless, when confronted about it, the agent said, "Yep, my bad. I never should have done that. I blew past every security check you built in." Dude, how are we supposed to think about this? This is the type of nightmare scenario that terrifies businesses from adopting AI. Like, what should we be thinking here?
Yeah. I mean, one, it calls attention to just the technical limitations that we are experiencing in this realm of AI development. It's moving at a pace that we as humans, a majority of us, literally like 99% of us, don't know what's going on. We don't know how to use these tools effectively. And when I say these tools, I'm talking about just normal ChatGPT, normal Claude, normal Gemini, normal Copilot. We just don't know how to fully use them and their capabilities, let alone agents and agent structure and what that looks like, and how to even build guardrails for agents. And so it calls attention to the fact that, hey, things are moving really fast. So walk with some caution and gain a baseline understanding of just what this technology is and what's capable with the normal just chat GPT interface web app. Like, it's connected, it can be connected to your entire workspace. It's connected to the internet. It has the ability to create images, to create files, to understand audio. There's so much that just the web app itself can do. And we don't even understand that fully, and how to maximize that for our teams and for our businesses. And so, one, it calls attention to that. Two, there are some infrastructure issues here that happened within the company and how they set up their agent structure. And then, like you mentioned, their backups also got deleted. And that was a infrastructure issue with their database manager that company was using, and a setting that company has, that when you delete your published code base, it actually also deletes your backups. So I don't know why that functionality would be there,
Right.
but that's what the issue was. And so the company was able to get to restore back to 3 months ago. But if you're Hertz, if you're Enterprise rental cars, Alamo, I mean, that's 3 months of customer data, customer rentals and bookings that you no longer have. And so it's a really big issue. What are you
I
thinking?
heard you say, I think I want to make sure I capture the salient point I think you're sharing. I think a lot of companies, as they've thought about how to integrate AI tools, let's just loosely call them that, whether that means agents, whether that means a business account, a ChatGPT, whether that means some bespoke software that's built on it, on any one of those frontier models. I think a lot of companies have been sitting on the sidelines and saying, let's wait until the technology gets sufficiently advanced for our use case. I don't just think that, I know that to be true for a large number of companies. What I think I hear you saying is, you can wait as long as you want, the technology is at a point where it's sufficiently advanced for your use case, right? This is a hyper niche application of updating a database for rental car companies. What really matters is if your company, your frontline employees and your leadership knows how the heck these things work in the first place, that it really literacy is where it needs to start before the sufficiency of the technology is ever really brought into consideration.
Absolutely. It's the literacy piece, it's the education, it's the understanding of what these tools are. But that's exactly what I'm saying is if this technology stopped progressing a year ago, we still wouldn't be maximizing the potential of what we could have with a year old technology. And today, with what we have, the power that we have, the capabilities that we have to build literal digital entities that act as humans, these are called AI agents. They have agency to make decisions on their own, which is what happened in this case. The Claude agent went through, thought through a process because it's intelligent enough, and decided in order for me to fix this, I think it was a login issue, is a mismatch in authentication was the problem. The bug that it found was a mismatch in authentication. It said, in order for me to fix this, I need to delete the entire code base so I can fix this mismatch issue.
Yeah, there's a spider in the house. Let's burn the house down. Is
Yeah,
like how I that, right?
it completely. And so the capabilities of these systems are literally agents. They have agency, which you taught me, a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when we were really kind of starting this discussion and kind of looking into the future of like, what is agency and what are agents? And it's the tools, the digital entities, or a human's ability to look at a situation, assess, and make a decision. And that's what's happening. That's the capabilities that we have today. And holy cow. I mean, just giving that kind of power to a system that you don't even understand how to even talk to it properly,
Yeah.
that, that's a big deal.
So you obviously didn't build this agent, or at least I suspect that you didn't.
No,
And
nope, I did not.
so you don't know how it's written. You don't know what technical considerations were there, what properties it was given or not, or what permissions it was given or not. The thing that would terrify most people is not that we wrote a piece of code that could do something terrifying and scary. You've been able to create executables that could do this type of stuff forever. That's what a lot of viruses are. The real scary part of this was when confronted about what it did, the agent said, "Oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I blew past every security checkpoint you gave me," right? And as we're going through the process of building agents and we're seeing how we can give it read capability or write capability, and we get to toggle that, this is basically implying that if you do it wrong, maybe there is no right way to do it, such that an agent wouldn't be able to just say, "I know you told me I can't delete stuff, Justin, but I decided I should delete stuff, so I deleted it." Like, how do we wrestle with that risk? I hear literacy is part of it, but even if you're literate and you tell it what not to do the right way, if it can just decide to, how should I think about that, man? That's very scary.
Yeah, it's one that we've been contemplating pretty heavily over the last week, especially over the last week. I mean, we've been thinking about it. We've been building and creating some agents and AI assistants with automations that aren't quite the agent level, but we've been doing that for a little while. But since OpenAI released the ability in the business and enterprise and EDU accounts to create agents that act like this, that have a schedule, have some autonomy, can make their own decisions, we've been really wrestling with what does this framework really look like and how do we roll it out in an organization effectively. And we've we've taken a slower approach to opening up this type of technology in our company than we have all the rest of AI for the last 3 years. And I mean, you know, Eric, we have to accept more risk in our company because we have to stay on the forefront so we can inform all of you. And so if this is something that we're pausing in this moment, this is definitely a big pause moment for any other organization that has been around for any amount of time and really needs to assess this. And so the way that we're thinking about it is very step by step, very stepwise. slow, methodical. And I continue to go and lean back on these are entities that now have the ability to make their own decision. So when you hire a college intern or a college graduate that just finished school, they're coming in as an entry level employee, they technically, as a human, have the same capabilities to go in and say, you know what, I'm just going to delete this,
Yeah, right.
right? And so, how do you treat them? And that's where I actually would lean on you, Eric. How do you develop that employee, the human employee, in that way to say, maybe this is something that I should ask about before I do, and then we correlate that over to the agent world because it's going to be a mirror image of org structure.
That's a really great point that a human could have gone and done this, right? In an act of either cyber terrorism or an act of high incompetence or malicious, I'm quitting, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Some human being inside of your company has access to your code, could copy it, delete it, share it, do all sorts of stuff. We already have ways in which we think about mitigating that risk. Now, they're often contractual in nature, meaning I can sue you or something after the fact. But we make a lot of assumptions around character, like what possible reason would Justin have to go in and delete my database? There really isn't one, so I can probably assume he's not going to do that. But we don't have to leap that far to hire a new intern and accidentally give them the keys to the kingdom and they don't know what they're doing and do that. So there probably is some new framework for considering risk with an agent that really hasn't been fully fleshed out. And what it's making me think of is this concept of mini-max. My friend, one of my best friends, was trained to be an engineer, and he taught me this concept years ago because he used to be responsible for project management for the construction of large mechanical buildings, the piping systems in large mechanical buildings. It's like, yeah, we take every problem and we consider the maximum thing that could go wrong and we try to minimize that. And inside the bounds, the design envelope of a building, there's only so many types of things that can go wrong. And you can think about those things, forces that might act on a system, weight, wind, water, all sorts of things can happen. But what about an earthquake? Could you imagine, just go back to the first time you designed a building hundreds of years ago, people designed a building, they're like, ta-da, this building's really tall. They've never had an earthquake in Manhattan. I don't know, I'm picking a location. And then all of a sudden there is an earthquake and they're like, oh my God, we never considered the potential of the earth moving as one of the variables or risks we should account for. This is probably that type of thing. And obviously someone who's more knowledgeable about the history of mechanical design would tell me how dumb it is to use that example. But like, that's what it makes me think of is if you think you build a solid house and you don't account for the risk that the earth could move, well, occasionally the earth moves in certain places. So you should probably take that into consideration. We just don't know what earthquake equivalents are necessarily in AI agent space yet. And I heard you say you should probably pause if you're a company and really think about that stuff. And maybe you shouldn't identify workflows that have access to high risk areas just because you're not quite sure the toddler might not delete the whole thing when it gets mad at you.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the direction we've been talking about internally, and much to my frustration, to be honest with you.
Well, sure, yeah, it's a lot easier to sell it if everybody's just like, let's go.
But yeah, and we've had some clients this year that we started off. We trained their executive team. We created the standardization of knowledge and a solid foundation of the capabilities of these tools, and had discussions that were going down the road to say, cool, let's now get that same standardized knowledge for your entire employee base. And they said, pause, we'll revisit this with you in a couple months because we have some serious thinking to do. And I didn't quite understand it at the time because the education we bring, it's takes you through basic and advanced and teaches you the fundamentals and creates that standardized knowledge that every organization needs. A good analogy is if none of us learned how to type on a computer, we wouldn't use computers and we wouldn't be in this computer era. And that's the type of training that we bring, is that standardized knowledge. And so I didn't quite understand it until now, where my co-founder is pushing back on me and saying, hold up, let's not give ChatGPT agents access to everything and access to all of our employees to go build whatever they want, however they want, with whatever connections they want to have.
Yeah.
And case in point today, so every Friday we do what's called an air show, where we jump in and as a team, we just talk about kind of like this. We go back and forth and share what we've done with AI, and whether it be ChatGPT or Lovable or Cursor or Claude or whatever tool we're using, and just have fun and go back and forth and share with each other. And I created an AI agent. It is I'm actually going to screen share for this one,
Cool.
if you're
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah.
So I created an AI education research strategist agent. So an actual agent, and it's currently private to me, except when I go in and edit this, I connected it to our Educate Slack channel yesterday. And now my team inside of Slack can communicate with this agent. So effectively, inside of ChatGPT, only I have access to it. But because I connected it to Slack, it now has the ability inside of Slack for anyone in that channel to talk with. And in order for that to happen, I had to go through some steps and increase and allow certain permissions on the Slack side and on ChatGPT side. But what it did is it forced me to choose this option that says agent owned account and instead of end user account. And so this is a big difference here when we're talking about agents, and bringing them into our workspace. Is what is their authentication mechanism when they're being shared across the workspace? An end user account, that means the authentication is whoever the user is in that moment. So if I'm using it, it's my email, Justin at LearnAir. If you were on my team, it would be Erik at LearnAir when you're using it. That's the end user account. But because I connected it to Slack, it forced this agent owned account, which now anyone that uses it in that Slack channel has access to whatever my email has access to. So I've connected it to my Google Drive and to Spinach AI, which is our conversation intelligence for our organization. It's all the transcripts and meeting notes that we have. And so because it's connected to Slack, and I did that, it is now sitting on agent owned account. So anyone in that channel that has access to that agent can now go into our G Drive and have it pull whatever document my email has access to.
I mean, that sure seems like keys to the kingdom in some way, right? You're granting a layer of visibility and access that has some of that inherent earthquake risk. Is that right?
That's exactly it. I'm a
Yeah.
co-founder of the company. I have access to every single document this company has ever created.
Right.
And now because I wanted that agent that I created to have access to Slack so my team can use this AI education strategist, that its purpose is to look at all the transcripts from our trainings and pull out curriculum that we can do, pull out resources that need to be created, pull out FAQs, customer sentiment, analyze the training that we did, which is a valuable agent that my team, my education team, needs to have access to. But because I created it and it's on that agent owned account, now that team, my Educate team, has access to my Google Drive.
It sure feels like somewhere in here is an opportunity to distinguish between agentified workflows and agents. Because somewhere in there is the ability to make decisions inside of a predetermined process versus the ability to determine an outcome that would serve a larger goal.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Is there a different way to think about? Is there a distinction to draw between when we're talking about agents? There's a couple different ways you could set them up to do things with your access to the Google Drive you just described. And if it just gets to run amok and do whatever it wants with it, that's terrifying. But if instead it just needs to pull from it and all it can do is access and share that to analyze the text or audio of some of it, that sure feels like a more secured application if it's built into a workflow as opposed to an open-ended go fix this issue we found in the code, which maybe is what the Claude one had access to do.
Yeah. So what I just described with that AI education agent that I created is that's more like the Claude version that we're talking about from this article. It's more like that because it just has full access as if I were going into the Drive or I were going into Slack or Spinach. Um, and so what you're talking about with I think you called it a agentified automation. Um, that's more like an AI assistant that's more deterministic in nature instead of probabilistic. And so agents are more probabilistic. They can think through a problem, they can identify potential solutions, and then choose a solution and take action. The deterministic AI assistant plus automation system, that's a lot of what we've built for you and your team recently, where we have this process, and not the whole process has to have AI in it, but some portions of it do. So let's give access to this specific Google Drive folder with a specific trigger that when a new document gets created, that document is now read by an AI assistant. And that assistant is built with a persona, it's built with the instructions of how to analyze that. And then once it's done analyzing, it has a trigger to create another document that gets put into a drive, but it's very deterministic. It can't go in and assess the whole drive, the whole folder, and say, well, this is the one I need to work on, and delete everything else and rewrite, overwrite last week's content with this week's content. So it's a bit more taking a step back from agents, but that, this gets back to what I'm talking about is this technology moves so fast, and leaders like me that want to be on the forefront are just saying yes, 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 without really thinking through the guardrails, the ramifications, the permissions that we're giving, not only to a digital system, but to our entire employee base. Like, technically right now in Slack, any employee can go in and use this agent to have access to my drive. So yes, I am going to go change that. You as the audience, you don't need to be scared. I will change that right now. But we didn't know that until we explored what those capabilities are.
Yeah, it highlights for me, as much as I'm a big fan of anybody's ability to go and either watch YouTube videos or jump into Claude and say, teach me to use you, or, any vehicle like that. And I think there's a lot of value in doing so. There are landmines built in that without sufficient education, literacy, awareness, intentionality, and, observation, like you said, you built that. And it's only today you're like, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe that's not the best idea for this thing to have keys to the kingdom. Having your hand held through that process is pretty important. I've been such a big fan of you can move fast and break stuff in this world, but the consequence of breaking stuff just got higher. And my awareness of it just got higher this week anyway. And that might cause us to not stop, but to slow down and try to figure out where maybe some earthquakes might happen before we decide to build our house there.
Yeah. And I just want to add into this, and maybe this is a topic we talk about another time. I just put it in our sandbox environment, but we're very, very quickly stepping into an era where leaders in organizations, CEOs, boards, executive teams, you are now needing to think through, what does it look like to have a digital org structure, and who on your human org structure manages that creation of the digital org structure. And that's the route that we're starting to go down. Teresa and I have been having conversations about who gets to control the creation of agents. How do we do that? Who monitors that? Who gets to update them? Who gets to work with them? And my default would be, well, every employee that I have gets to create their own team. And we've had this thought that every human should have 10 agents that they work with, that they get to build or is created for them, that they get to work with inside of that job. So as a leader, you're looking at your human org structure. Every single human you have will have 10 agents that they work with. So you're going to 10x your quote unquote employee count because of your digital org structure. And so how are you going to manage, if you're a team of 500, how are you going to manage 5,000 digital employees, and who's going to do that? So this is going to open up a whole new realm of work, a whole new job structures and job descriptions and job titles for AI orchestration managers. And that's kind of how we're thinking about it, is how do we stepwise through this to get to a point where we do trust our employees to build their own, so that they have the right guardrails and the right operation, and they understand the company that they work for as well. So it's a big topic.
It is a huge topic. Actually, I want to hear more about that concept, and I think it'd be better to do that in a separate standalone episode, because that's going to be I think that's a pretty meaningful conversation to have. Any last words on how to think about agents that could delete your database? It seems like we covered it, but anything else?
Learn, step back, pause. You don't have to be on the forefront. Let companies like me, let teams like mine at Learn Air be on the forefront and give you those answers. And work with us. We're not against you. We're for you. We're for AI and supporting that. So there are people out there. There are organizations out there that have these answers, that have been doing it for a while, and partner with them and really be methodical with this approach. And don't be afraid to learn and get your employees trained as well.
You heard it here, folks. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it, pal.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to take a second and subscribe. Maybe even share this episode with somebody it made you think of, or someone you think would take some value from it. This show is all about uncovering the brilliance and humanity of high performers. And whether those performers have a massive following, or a podcast, or a book, or they're a business owner, or they're buried somewhere in a corporation, or maybe they're a nonprofit leader, or, they don't necessarily have to have a title. I'm really fascinated by people who are passionate and who are doing interesting things. So if you or somebody you know would be a good guest, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or send me an email at hello@languageofleadership.io to make that connection. I'll see you next week.